Here we are on the front of our Grand Design Imagine 2970RL. We're going to do a technical walkthrough on our unit, go over the components on it, a little bit how they operate, just like you would on the date of delivery. If your unit differs in name brand, you can find more information on these components as well as other ones that differ in that name brand for operation, maintenance, and diagnostics under our HAPS Helpful Hacks section. You can search through there. For now, we'll go over this unit. On the front, we have our 7-way plug that goes and transfers all of the lights on our towing vehicle to our unit. And then we also have our 12-volt battery charge line that'll pull off the alternator to charge a battery. And then we have our brake control line off of that brake controller that will activate the brakes for our trailer. Now we also have another feature for our brakes. It's called our breakaway. We have that lanyard right there that is to hook to that receiver hitch where same place we hook our chains, where that hole is. You want to latch that on there, never to the other hitch or chains or anything like that, because if any of that is what fails, this will go with it. The intent is for this end to stay with the truck. This pin will pull out of that breakaway box and activate the brakes on our trailer, bring it to a stop. Now that's only going to happen if we have a good solid 12-volt battery on our unit. If we don't, the system's not going to work properly. We also need to make sure that that pin is always inserted in that box. Otherwise, those brakes will activate at a time we don't want them to. Next, we have our 12-volt Lippert jack right here. That jack does have a battery line that goes down. You're going to see an inline fuse on there. In the event that this jack isn't working, we want to check that fuse. Also check our 12-volt battery power and ensure that we have 12 volts. If it is not operating, we can't figure it out, no fear. We have a little black plug on the top. Pull that off, put our crank handle in there, and we can manually run this jack up and down, get us out of a jam. Behind that, we have our dual propane tanks. Those are operated by our dual propane regulator. We have both tanks on. We choose whatever tank we wish to be our primary by turning that selector switch. It will run that tank until it's empty, and then automatically start to pull off of our secondary tank so you don't have interrupted service on your unit. Now you will notice the gauge on there changes to red and lets you know that that primary tank is now empty. We can turn that selector switch over to the secondary. That is now our primary, and we can get that other tank refilled. Behind that, we have our battery storage center. That's where we'll put our batteries for our unit. On our driver's side, we have access to our pass-through storage right here. We also have a motion sense light in here. We can flip that switch on, and we can have motion sense light for our interior. When we leave that on, open and close that door, that light will pop back on whenever we open that door. We also have a switch in here for our front light caps in there. And we also have our TrueLink system by Lippert already pre-wired for our power. If we want to purchase that monitor and sensors, we can install those on our tires and monitor our tire pressure while we're traveling. We're also going to have our control center right here. We'll go over the information on that. Of course, you're also going to come with your Furrion solar controller system in there as well, which will convert your solar power into charging power for that battery. For now, we'll go over our control center here in that compartment. So we have our disconnects. That battery disconnect is for our battery only. We're going to go ahead and disconnect that when we store our unit unplugged. That way we can conserve the battery power that's on there. If we're plugged in somewhere, we want that battery disconnect on. That way our battery is charging when we're plugged in. Our solar disconnect is going to disconnect the solar only, nothing to do with your battery generally. Unless you were storing your unit once again unplugged, you can turn this battery disconnect off, leave your solar on, and that solar will charge the battery still. Below that, we have our coax connections here. If we have a tripod satellite or a motion satellite, we can go ahead and hook up to that satellite port, bring it to the inside. Same thing for cable, and then an auxiliary port if you have something else you want to hook up in there to transmit to all the TVs. GFCI protected 110 outlet right here. We'll go over GFCI a little bit more when we go inside. And we have our valve right here that is going to be for our tank fill. So if we want to fill it up through our city water connection, we turn this tank fill right here. If we want it going regular city water, we'll turn it off like that. So that being said, this is our city water connection right here. This is where we would hook our water hose up from that campground, our house, if we want to fill our tank, or if we just want that city water, hook it up here. And of course a quick connect right here with that hot and cold option. Also below our pass-through storage, you'll notice we have our stabilizer jacks. These are manual stab jacks. They do have a weight rating on them that is well below what the weight of the camper is. So they're not intended to lift our camper off the ground, not intended to level it. not intended to change a spare tire with them. They are merely intended to stabilize our unit, reduce the movement inside of it once we have it level. In order to level our unit out, we want to get those stacker blocks, put them under our tires when we're backing up to level our unit out from left to right, and then use our ton jack to level it from front to back. When we put those stabilizers down, we want to try to keep a diamond shaped form as best we can. That is when they are at their most efficient and effective position. If we need more stacker blocks to stick under that, in order to do that, we want to go ahead and do that. Crank them down and just put a little bit of weight on them, enough to where it is actually stabilizing that unit, but you don't want to once again lift it or level it with those stabilizers. We also want to keep in mind that if we do them straight up and down or don't use them properly, it is too much weight and it will bend and break those jacks, and it will end up becoming a customer pay item. Manufacturers aren't going to replace them for misuse. We're also going to notice behind me here we have our fill tank for our fresh water. We have the option to fill it here, or we can do a gravity fill here. We pull that cap off, put our water hose in there, and we can fill that onboard storage tank. That onboard storage is if we are going somewhere that's not going to have city water connection. We can kick on our water pump and pull from that storage center. Of course, this does add more weight to our trailer, and also that water will become stagnant over time if we leave it in there too long. So in order to drain some out if we're not using it, we do have our valve under here. We're going to notice that white valve pull handle. We open that up and it will drain the water out of that tank. Also see our storage center for our sewer hose right there. Flip that open and we can store our hose in there. Moving down the line, we have our Furrion tankless water heater supplied to us with 12 volt as well as propane to heat that water. We'll go over the operation of that when we get to the dial on the inside. We also have our black tank flush right there. That's going to help us flush out our sewage system. We'll talk about that docking light here. We can see our tags here. That's for our black tank and gray tank handles, which are right under the J-wrap right here. We'll notice that. Once again, that'll go to our sewage station right here. Quickly, we'll talk about our 50 amp twist lock plug. Want to go ahead and put that in, turn it and lock it in and tighten up that little retainer ring. That way kids running around, anything like that, they trip over it, it won't pull that out of the socket and disrupt power to your camper. Once we plugged it in here, then we want to plug it in over there, and that helps reduce any arcing or anything from plugging it there first and then to here. And then we also want to make sure that our AC systems are turned off when we are plugging in or unplugging that system to reduce any surges to our appliances. Now down here we have that sewage system with that cap on it. We would take that off and we would hook up our sewer hose that would either go to the dump station or the sewer system at the campsite. And we have our gray and black tanks. Now in this one we have two gray tanks. You're going to have one in front of that water heater, one right here. Those are going to be any shower water and sink water on your unit. You can leave those open all the time as long as you have that sewer hose and that sewer station at your campground. Let that water drain out, no problem. Our black tank, however, is going to have solids in there from our toilet. We want to always make sure there's water in that tank, otherwise those solids are going to dry up. And so we want to keep that valve closed all the time until we're ready to dump. When we are ready to dump, pull that handle, let everything dump out down that hose, and that's where our black tank flush comes in. We hook a water hose up to it. You have a jet on the other side of that tank, flip it on, it pushes debris down to this valve and flushes it out of that tank. Now you'll go ahead and run that for as long as you wish until you are satisfied with that dumping system. Disconnect that hose, close your black tank valve, go on the inside of your unit and hold down the pedal for your toilet, and you want to put several gallons of fresh water in there. That way we have good water. You're still going to have some sediment in there, maybe stuck to the walls, whatever. We don't want that to dry up. So while you're driving down the road, that water is going to clean out that system a little more. And we also want to put some chemicals in there to help make it smell good and help break down whatever might be left in that tank. Now, if you want to go a step further and do the pro method of flushing out that tank system, you can find that video in our Helpful Hacks playlist on our Great American channel. Over here we have our Dometic furnace right here, gas operated system. We'll go over how that operates when we hit the inside. Also behind me we have our Schwintek slide out, identified by our rail system on the top and the bottom here. We do have a video on that Schwintek slide system if anything were to ever go wrong on how to operate that. And that is once again going to be on our Helpful Hacks section. You're also going to notice your low point drains right there under the water heater. Those are for winterization. If you want more information on that, you can find it in your owner's manual or the video on HAP's Helpful Hacks. On that driver's side slide, we're going to notice that vent over there. That is over our burner cooktop right there on the inside. That is our hood vent. In order to ventilate out, we need to make sure those tabs are open so they will actually ventilate out. If we want to close that off when we store our unit to help reduce any insects or anything from building a nest in there, we can certainly do that. Here on the back of our unit, we are pre-wired for that Furrion backup camera system. When we turn our running lights on, it turns on power to that backup camera, so we can see behind us when we're backing up or while we're traveling down the road. We're also outfitted with that factory supply ladder to be able to gain access to our roof. Very, very important because we need to check our sealants every 60 to 90 days. This includes our sealants down our trims, around our windows, around our lights, anywhere on the sidewalls and roof. We need to check those sealants for deterioration, cracking, peeling, anything of that nature that might allow water entry into our unit, and maintain those sealants. Reseal over them, clean them, all those operations in order to maintain it. Manufacturers aren't going to participate in any water damage if the unit is not properly maintained. After the first 90 days, they're out. So make sure we're maintaining all our sealants on our unit and checking it regularly to make sure it'll last for years to come. We also need to get up there and check that roof after we have traveled in order to make sure that no low-lying tree limbs have scraped, poked holes or anything like that in that roof, damaging any of that rubber and once again allowing water in there. We also need to wash that roof at least once or twice a year. Also over here, we're going to notice a receiver hitch down at the bottom. This is not for towing. This is if we want to add a basket or a bike rack on the back. You'll notice there's not going to be any tow hooks on there, as well as any lights for it. So only for excessive cargo, if you wish to add it on there, then you can do that on that receiver hitch. Of course, mind the weight rating on it. On our passenger side, once again, more access to our pass-through bay right there, as well as another stabilizer jack. We'll have that on all four corners of our unit. Behind me, we have our 12-volt powered awning. We can run in and out with a flip of a switch, as well as our 12-volt awning lights under there. Once again, all 12-volt operated components that will all feed off of your 12-volt battery in the front. And you're going to have inline fuses that are going to be in that fuse panel on the inside near the breaker panel. We'll go over that after a while. Our awning is simply a sunshade. It's not meant to go ahead and keep us from getting wet whenever it rains. If it does have any rain, we want to go ahead and roll that awning in. Water can pool up on that awning, pull it down. Wind can come in and rip it off, and that'll all be considered an insurance claim. Want to make sure you're taking care of that awning. That'll be an expensive insurance claim. Roll it out whenever you are leaving for extended periods of time. And lastly, we want to make sure we pitch it from front to back or back to front, one of the two. And that way any water, light dew, light rain, or any condensation from our AC that may get on there can run off. Very simple to do. We roll our awning out. We're going to grab it at this pivot point right here, pull down, and now we've pitched our awning to the front. The same thing can be done on our rear if we want to do that. Just make sure one of them's up when the other is down. When we go ahead and return our unit, our awning back into a stored position, we just push that up and we roll our awning back in. You also find under the slide out on the driver's side, that pin system right there, that is to lower your spare tire. The hole through the J-wrap will allow you to put your crank in there, so you can do that. Coax port and 110 GFCI outlet out here on that rear slide out, so you can hook up your outdoor TV under the awning. Now we're going to notice we do have a second awning, same exact thing as our front awning. The instructions for that. That slide out is going to be a rack and pinion slide. We do have information on how to override that system as well. You're generally going to find an override post on the opposite side in order to bring that slide out in the event that that motor goes out. On our entry door, we're going to notice that we do have some friction controlled hinges. When we go to close that door, we're going to notice the friction on the hinges. Helps reduce that wind from slamming that door open or closed. We have a little magnetic latch on the back, and we have our solid steps. Now, our solid steps, whenever we put them up and store them or we pull them out, want to make sure that door is all the way open. That way we're not scratching up our screen or anything. Put it up there. Make sure that blue latch latches right there. We're good to go for storing. When we pull it down, pull that blue latch, and we bring it down. Now, after we have leveled our unit from left to right and front to back, we also need to come and level our steps. Very easy to do. We have these silver tabs on each leg. We push them in and we can extend or retract those legs once we put it down. Now this is important. We want to go ahead and level it out, not just for safety, but we also want to make sure this threshold is nice and flush in here so our door will close properly, and we also want to make sure that our door frame isn't hitting the frame of our steps causing any damage to that frame. As we walk in the entry door, we do have our control center right here, 12-volt operated, every component on here. And we'll see up top we have our meter for our fresh tank, black tank, gray tank 2, and our battery as well, letting you know what the level of all those items are. Here we have that Bluetooth Connect. If we want to download that Compass Connect app on our phone, we should be able to have access to some of the items on here, if not all of them, as far as operating or monitoring our tanks as well. Down here we have our ceiling lights. Our exterior lights are going to be for our awning, and then we have our water pump. That 12-volt water pump pulls from our fresh tank in the event we don't have city water, and that'll put water to all of our fixtures, depending on if we have water in that fresh tank. Now this is an on-demand pump. If you do hear it running and you don't have water on, then you want to shut that system off. Either your tank is empty or you may have a leak somewhere in your system, so keep that in mind. You don't want to burn that pump up. Down here we have our 2 awning controls, extend and retract, as well as our 2 slide outs, extend and retract there. And we have our light for our ceiling as well. This one is a dimmable option for that strip lighting. We can control that there. Here we have our Furrion AC system. We can go over the operation of that right now. We'll start with our cool option first. Our cool will cool the air throughout our unit. We of course set our thermostat to whatever point we want it to be, and we have our fan speed options. We have low and high. For low and high, that fan will run all the time. Now whenever we want that fan to cut off, whenever the compressor cuts off, much like we likely do at home, we have it on auto. That system will shut off and on with the compressor. Our next mode is our heat mode. Our heat mode activates our gas-powered furnace on our unit. We choose our set point, and our heater will come on whenever necessary. There is fan speeds on here, but it does not change the fan speed on that furnace. It is a single fan speed on there controlled by the furnace board. Our next mode is our fan mode. Our fan mode simply circulates air throughout our unit without cooling it or anything. This will come out of our rooftop air, and we can just change from high to low to control that fan speed if we wish. That fan will stay on the entire time when we have it in our fan mode. Our last mode is our dry mode. Our dry mode is like a dehumidifier. We can choose our set point, and it will cool our unit down to that set point, and it will continue to cool past that, but alternate every 6 to 10 minutes off and on. That way it doesn't drop that temperature too low and freeze you out of the unit, but it still dries the air in your unit. Another thing to note with our furnace is that the air is going to come out of the vents on the floor. It's not going to come out of the rooftop air. Your only rooftop air is going to be your fan and your cool and your dry. Your heat will come out of those floor vents from the furnace. Now we have our ceiling assembly right here for our Furrion AC system. This is for the rear one. We have another one in the bedroom. Once again, that hallway thermostat is only going to control the heat for the whole unit and your AC right here in the rear. The front AC, that thermostat is only going to control the coolness for that front AC system, not the heat. So on this system, we do have our filter. This is where our return air would go. We need to make sure that filter is nice and clean so we're not restricting air up to that AC, and it could work efficiently. We also have a dump valve right here. A dump valve can be opened up and help cool this area off a little bit quicker rather than going through our ducted system, but air is only going to come out of here. When we want it to go through our ceiling ducts, through our system, we want to make sure that that is closed in order for that to operate. Once again, your heat is only going to come out of your lower vents down at the bottom, not out of your top AC unit. We're also going to notice our entry door, we have that COLP detector that's going to notify us of any cautious gases that may get in our unit. The alarm will go off. We'll notice a little green light glowing on there. That lets us know that it's powered up. 12-volt operated device hardwired into our battery system. Now we do notice that there is an expiration date on these, sometimes on the front, sometimes on the back. When that date comes around, we need to replace that unit. Have that test button on there, test that monthly or before every trip, make sure it's operating properly. We also need to keep in mind our smoke detectors in here need to be tested as well, and we need to make sure we're changing out that 9-volt battery in there so they are always operating. Here to the left, we have our 110 control center, all our breakers. They're all labeled in there as far as what they operate. And then we have our 12-volt control center right here as well with all of our 12-volt blade fuses, once again, all labeled as to what they operate. In our kitchen, we have our 12-volt Furrion refrigerator right here. pretty easy to operate. We open it up, we have a dial down here at the bottom. We can turn that system off on that dial, or we can go from cold to colder or off grid. Off grid means that we are dry docking, boondocking, whatever you want to call it, and we're strictly working off of that 12-volt battery, so that will reduce the work the compressor is doing to help conserve some of that 12-volt power in there. But we need to keep in mind, this is also saying that we're not going to open and close this refrigerator system very often either, so it may not keep those items cold enough to your liking if we are opening and closing that fridge a lot. Now, one thing we need to keep in mind with our fridge and freezer is there is no drip hoses in here, so once we defrost this system, that water all needs to be cleared out of there. We need to dry it out, especially in our freezer, wipe everything down, reduce risk for mold and mildew to accumulate in there, as well as any opportunity for water to leak out and damage any of our wood components around our unit, because manufacturers aren't going to cover that kind of damage. Over here we have our 110 microwave right here and our Furrion hood vent. And then remember, we talked about the vent on the back side. We need to make sure that's open in order for this to actually ventilate out. We have our Furrion 3-burner cooktop with our glass cover right here for more counter space. This is also how it needs to travel. We can go ahead and flip it up when we are ready to cook. We choose whatever burner we want, of course, assuming our propane is on. Turn it to that flame icon, and we manually crank up until it lights. Now, one thing about our gas system is anytime we pull our unit out of storage and we have those propane tanks off, or we just changed out our tanks, we're going to get air in our system. Now, it's a good idea to, as soon as you are ready to camp, you turn those propane tanks on, you come over here, just light your stovetop. That's all you got to do. It may take a little bit longer. Just light it up. You're getting all the air out of your system, and then let it burn for 30 to 60 seconds. That's a good idea to do before we light any appliances like our water heater or our furnace, and it reduces the opportunity for those to go in a fault mode due to air in the lines. So it's a quick, easy way to do it. Once you have done it once, you don't have to do it again until you store your unit and you turn those tanks off or you ran out of gas. Now, for our oven, slightly different scenario. The first time after you've let that air out, it still will take a little bit longer to light that one up. But in order to light it, you're going to choose your knob over here on the right, turn it to that flame icon, but you have to keep pushing that knob down. You will manually light it like that, or use a long stem lighter. Light that pilot up, hold it for about 30 seconds, let that pilot light warm up that thermocouple, and then you're going to go ahead and turn it to the appropriate temperature, and that burner tube should light up. If that doesn't work, go back to that light icon, that flame icon, hold it down again, relight your pilot, and then choose your appropriate temperature and see if that doesn't fix the problem. Now, you'll notice all of your knobs light up red. That's to let you know that gas is being emitted out to that system. Nice little safety feature. Flip that switch right there. They all turn blue. They still turn red when they're on, and flip it down and it'll also light up your oven. For our entertainment, of course, we have our flat screen TV. We pull it out. We'll notice a little switch over here on the side with our coax plate. So that switch has a light connected to it as well. When we turn that switch off and on, that light turns off and on. That is our 12-volt antenna boost. Anytime we are searching for air channels, antenna channels, we want to make sure that light is on. That boosts that antenna to help you pick up more channels in the area. When we are searching for cable channels, we want to turn that switch off so it doesn't scramble the cable channels that we're getting from the campground. Below that, of course, we have our 110 fireplace system. That is electric heat if you don't want to use the gas heat. That will, of course, heat up that area here in the living room. Our recliners are manual. You pull the cable up, they'll come out. We have lights for them, as well as massaging seats and heated seats. And our sofa here will fold out into a sofa sleeper. In our bathroom, pretty self-explanatory. We got a shower, hot, cold. One thing that's a little different is you do have an on-off switch on this shower. You can go ahead and flip that off and on. We'll generally use that when we are boondocking. We don't have a station at our campground where we can dump water. So whenever you are showering off in between lathering up and rinsing off, you can go ahead and shut this head off. That way you are conserving the amount of water you're using out of your fresh tank, as well as the amount of water you're putting in your gray tank. If you don't want to use it that way, you certainly don't have to. If you're hooked up to city water and you have a drain port, you can go ahead and use it as normal and don't worry about that shower head. We're going to have a shower vent in here that will go ahead and expel any heat and humidity out of here. It's advised that you use that whenever you take a shower to help reduce the opportunity for mold and mildew. That brings us to our toilet. Toilet's pretty self-explanatory. You got a lever down here to flush it. Anytime we use our toilet, we're only putting number 1, number 2 RV toilet paper and chemicals in there, and that's it. Put anything else in there, it could clog up that valve at the end of that tank, so you don't want to do that. That can be an expensive repair. So if we're doing number 1, liquids, hit that pedal, flush it down, no problem. We're doing number 2, solids. We want to barely depress that pedal down there, fill that bowl up about 1/2 to 3/4 of the way, and then flush that system. This allows us to have enough water in there to actually push those solids down into that tank. Once again, we also want to use just RV toilet paper that will degrade properly with our system, and then of course add our chemicals before we take a camping trip, as well as after we flush our tank. We have our Furrion tankless water heater right there. We'll go over the operation of that. We also have our GFCI protected outlet. We talked about that a little bit. You're going to have 2 buttons on there. One is a reset button, one's a test button. At reset button, in the event that those outlets aren't working, you want to come here and try to reset that system. That could be due to the outlets being wet, or you have too many appliances plugged into them. They're going to be in all of your wet locations, your kitchen, outside, so on and so forth. And that system can be overamped. So if it won't reset, it keeps tripping. Go unplug some of those appliances. Also make sure the outlets aren't wet. Then come back and try to reset it again. We'll go over the operation of that tankless water heater system right now. In our bathroom, we'll see our Furrion tankless control center. Pretty simple. We have our power on, off and on, kick it on. That's going to be our set point for our water. We can change that by hitting our up and down buttons right there. Our indicators right here, power, Fahrenheit, Celsius. If we want to change one or the other, we hit that bottom right button, and flame. Flame is only going to kick on whenever we turn that hot water on, indicating that system is working. And once again, on demand, it'll only come on whenever we have that hot water on. Not much to go over in our front bedroom. We do have storage under our bed, cubby holes with USB and 110 outlets in them. And we also have our other Furrion AC with our Furrion thermostat right there, controlled separately from our other unit. This one is only going to do your cool option in here.
Well, we hope you found that resourceful, but wait, there's more information on our Great American RV YouTube channel. This channel right here, find the playlist Hap's Helpful Hacks. We go over different products in this unit, and we'll take a deeper dive with more diagnostics, more information, as well as helpful tips when you're out camping. Tell your buddies, tell your friends, like, share, subscribe, do all those awesome things on YouTube, TikTok, wherever you found us, and keep watching here at Great American RV SuperStores, where we bring the how-to you.